crazy. Hi guys, and welcome back to my ASMR channel, and welcome back to another forbidden ASMR episode. Now, today's case is a heavy one. It is, I don't think it was requested. I'm not sure. I can't remember, but it's strange how it wasn't requested because it's such a big case. I just want to say before watching this, make sure you check out the warnings, the content warnings, as there will be talk about suicide, SA and sexual abuse, and things along those lines, and underage girls, and like money laundering, things like that basically. So they're the warnings before. If that's something that you obviously don't want to hear about, then you can click off and come back in another video. Yeah, basically we're going to be talking about Epstein's Island. So yeah, what Epstein Island is and was, and all the craziness that it was, and honestly how this guy got away with stuff. Like, I know he was rich, he had money, that's probably mainly the main reasons, but it's just, I just don't understand how people like this can get away with it. This is what I mean, it's like people in power, just because they're in power or they've got money, like all they have to do is just pay people to keep it hush. Like, they don't have any consequences like a normal human being, and it's so frustrating because it's like the law doesn't like work for them the way it like should. Let's get on into the case anyway. Sorry. Accusers say billionaire's private paradise of Little St. James in the US Virgin Islands was centre of international sex trafficking ring. The guests to Epstein's Island came from across the world and from the highest ranks of society. Celebrities and scientists, and members of royal families, touching down in a private jet and then boarding a helicopter to this island. Its owner liked to call it the Little St. Jeff. Locals called it Paedophile Island. But what is the truth about Little St. James? The 75-acre private paradise in the US Virgin Islands that billionaire sex abuser Jeffrey Epstein once called home. A criminal complaint from the Attorney General of the US Virgin Islands described it as the perfect hideaway and haven for trafficking young women and underage girls for sexual servitude, child abuse, and SA. On this island, the complaint says Epstein and his associates could avoid detection of their illegal activity from Virgin Islands and federal law enforcement, and prevent these young women and underage girls from leaving freely and escaping the abuse. The island featured in Ghislaine Maxwell's sex trafficking trial in December. She was convicted, of 5 sex trafficking charges and was sentenced to 20 years behind bars, plus a $750,000 fine on Tuesday the was sold to a wealthy investor for less than half of its original asking price, with the hope of turning it into a luxury resort. Little St. James is a small island fringed by coral reefs in the bright blue waters of the US Virgin Islands, with sheltered inlets and forested groves rising to dramatic windswept ridges and craggy cliffs. It lies just off the southeastern tip of St. Thomas, one of the Caribbean three main islands. It was in the Virgins that Epstein registered as a sex offender in 2010, following his first conviction for child prostitution in 2008. Starting in 2007, Epstein began a massive program of building and remodeling that drew suspicion from local officials. The building differs greatly from Epstein's original planning permit for an octagonal music pavilion, and has become a lightning rod for fevered speculation, I'm not sure. Theorists have variously described it as the entrance to an underground lair, an altar to an Egyptian deity, a burial ground for his parents, or a site of ritual SA. One former employee described it as a Zen-like retreat where the financier would stroll around in flip-flops with meditative music playing from speakers and the women bathing topless, sometimes suspiciously young, on the arms of Epstein or one of his many guests. The island had a staff of about 70, from groundskeepers and gardeners through laundry ladies to an on-call boat captain. They wore black or white polo shirts and were sworn to secrecy, with instructions to stay out of Epstein's sight when doing their work. They were also forbidden to enter either of Epstein's two offices in the main manor, one of which housed a closely guarded steel safe. The South African couple described how Epstein did not like to eat meals in front of people, instead taking snacks to eat in his room, where he would also receive daily massages. When they were hired, the Alexanders say that they were told what Jeffrey wants, Jeffrey gets. Amongst the famous names reportedly hosted by Epstein were theoretical physicist Stephen Hawking's, Nobel laureate Lawrence Cross, co-medium Chris Tucker, Victoria's Secret's magnate Les Wexner, model Naomi Campbell, former Tony Blair, Lord Peter Mandelson, and Prince Andrew of the UK. magician David Copperfield is even said to have proposed to supermodel Claudia Schiffer there. Guests would arrive on one of Epstein's Gulfstream jets at Cyril E. King Airport on St. Thomas, in a private area separate from the main runway. Epstein was fond of treating the guests, reportedly paying for a submarine to be modified to give a seabed tour to Professor Hawking, who had never been underwater before. In January 2024, which is literally like a few months ago, like 4 months ago, up to 200 Epstein associates are expected to be unmasked after a judge ordered the unsealing of court documents. In a lawsuit brought by Miss Gifford against Maxwell, many of the documents to be unsealed any time from the 1st of January have previously been publicly released, though names were redacted. In December 2023, District Judge Loretta Prescott ruled that there was no legal justification to keep the names redacted as John and Jane Doe's. From the start, locals on St. Thomas whispered darkly about Epstein's activities, calling his private jets the Lolita Express. When scuba divers swam near the island, security guards would reportedly appear to patrol the edge of the water. At one point, Epstein was ferrying about 200 workers back and forth every day to build his projects. When he was there, it was keep to yourself and do your thing. Airport staff on St. Thomas could see who Epstein was bringing with him on the express. On multiple occasions, I saw Epstein exit his helicopter, stand on the tarmac in full view of my tower, and board his private jet with children, female children. A former air traffic controller told Vanity Fair. My colleagues and I definitely talked about how we didn't understand how this guy was still allowed to be around children. We didn't say anything because we figured law enforcement was doing their job. That is regrettable, but we really didn't even know who to tell or if anyone really cared. Another airstrip employee said there'd be girls that looked like they could be in high school. They looked very young. They were always wearing college sweatshirts. It seemed like camouflage. That's the best way to put it. I could see him with my own eyes. I compared it to seeing a serial killer in broad daylight. I called it the face of evil. It was like he was flaunting it. Sometimes the girls would be carrying shopping bags from designer brands such as Gucci and Dior. The Alexanders also grew suspicious. They looked like they had stepped out of an underwear catalogue, Kathy told the Mail. They walked around with very few clothes on or lounged around by the pool with nothing on. It was like that most of the time. I was concerned about their ages. A few of them looked very young, and I couldn't help but wonder if them others knew where they were. Miles Alexander added that he had sometimes had to refuse Epstein battling with my conscience right now. According to a lawsuit filed by Prince Andrew's accuser, Virginia Roberts, Little St. James was the centre of a worldwide grooming scheme in which recruiters working for Epstein targeted young women who were open to abuse and manipulation, played on their hopes and fears, dazzled them with displays of vast wealth and power, and then forced them to have sex with clients while keeping them in line with threats and blackmail. The lawsuit described the island as just one step in a worldwide web of private flights that ferried sex trafficking victims to London, Paris, Tangla, Granada in Spain, St. Louis, Palm Beach, Atlanta City and beyond. Miss Gaffer said that Prince Andrew had as Ada on Little St. James when she was 17, which the prince unequivocally denied. In 2022, he agreed to settle the suit out of a court for an undisclosed sum without admitting liability. Between 2001 and 2019, the Epstein enterprise transported underage girls and young women to the Virgin Islands, who were then taken via helicopter or private vessel to Little St. James, where they were deceptively subjected to sexual servitude, forced to engage in sexual acts, and coerced into commercial sexual activity and forced labour. To accomplish his illegal ends, Epstein formed an association with multiple defendants and others, both companies and individuals, who were willing to participate in, facilitate and conceal Epstein's criminal activity in exchange for Epstein's bestowal of financial and other benefits, including sexual services and forced labour from victims. Some of these victims, it added, were as young as 12. The complaint also alleged that Little St. James served as a prison for the victims, with Epstein controlling all communication with the outside world. It said that one 15-year-old tried to escape by swimming, but Epstein organised a search party, recaptured her and confiscated her passport. Remember, he owns a whole island, said Attorney General Denise George in 2020. So it wasn't a situation where a child or a young woman would be able to just break away and run down the street to the nearest police station. One alleged victim told CBS News that she had been raped in Epstein's office in St. Thomas and that he had a gun strapped to the bedpost in his bedroom on Little St. James's. The complaint says Epstein kept a computerized list of underage girls in or near the Virgin Islands who could be brought to the island. Authorities made several attempts to investigate Little St. James. As a sex offender, Epstein was required to re-register every year, and officials did try to visit the island in 2018 to verify his address. But according to the Attorney General's complaint, Epstein refused the officer's entry at the door, claiming it was his front door, and instead insisted on meeting them in his office on St. Thomas. He also made employees sign confidentiality agreements that banned them from talking to law enforcement and required them to report any inquiries to Epstein. Monitoring a sex offender with his own private islands and the resources to fly victims Sergey Brin. He gave them money, advice, influence and favours. In exchange they shielded and even rewarded him, they wrote. In a statement, the bank said it would pay $55 million to Virgin Islands charities and anti-trafficking organisations, to $20 million to cover the island territory's legal expenses. Epstein died in prison in 2019 in what authorities have ruled to be a suicide. In June 2023, a scathing US government report laid bare a catalogue of errors leading to his death, but confirmed the original assessment. After that, for nearly 2 years, the fate of Little St James and Great St James was in limbo after the government of the US Virgin Islands asked a judge to give it control of Epstein's old assets. The billionaire's executor fought that request, saying they wanted to use his assets to set up a relief fund for sexual assault victims, and asking the government to unfreeze his 2 islands so they can sell them off. Miss George countered by accusing them of mismanaging the estate and paying for lawyers, landscaping and helicopter fees, but not the brave women who have stepped forward to participate in the compensation fund. Authorities said that Epstein had removed the ruins of old colonial structures from the days of slavery. Some of the dispositions released Thursday centre on how girls were convinced to go to the home and then were asked to bring friends for additional payment. One woman who was 16 or 17 at the time said she had no massage experience and no assumption or expectation that the visit would involve sexual activity. Jeffrey took my clothes off without my consent the first time I met him. Ricari said he interviewed around 33 women, according to a transcript. Only 2 who were older had any massage experience, he said. Most of the girls were younger than 18. Each of the victims that went to the home were asked to bring their friends to the home. Some complied and some didn't. In total, the hundreds of pages of unsealed documents, which are the latest to attract online conspiracy theorists in the wake of Epstein's 2019 death, are expected to make public the names of more than 150 people connected to or mentioned in legal proceedings related to Epstein and his network, which prosecutors said involved luring underage girls and young women to engage in sex acts with powerful men. And that was the end of today's Forbidden ASMR episode. Yeah, I don't know what to say about it, to be honest. I don't know why it took so long. Because they're only just settling stuff now, and even now they only really care about money. Obviously they just want the money to be put to re-sprucing up the island and selling it to make a profit. That's all they care about, when in fact someone said that money should be going towards the victims and the victims' families and loved ones, and also in prevention of SA victims, and stuff like that, going towards basically people that have been abused and need the help and support. That's where it should be going. I don't understand. They're as bad because they're just all they care about is profit. And it's just for God's sake, come on. To be honest, I do believe that Prince Andrew was a part of it, because, after all this stuff that's come out these past few So like, this is one